What's up guys, Houndish here, today jumping in with a somewhat unexpected update, although not massively unexpected given that we've been waiting for some communication from Bungie for quite some time, and as we know Shadow and Order was supposed to be dropping early in March, now just a couple of weeks away from that date. Yeah, we finally got some communication. Good news in a way because Bungie actually say something, bad news because the delay is confirmed and probably has wider implications for Destiny 2. And so, Bungie say, our next major update, Destiny 2 Shadow and Order, is undergoing large revisions and will be delayed. This update is being changed and expanded to include sizable quality of life updates, and as a result, will also be renamed. This update will now launch on June 9th, 2026. So immediately, that's the first part, all the way until June is a very, very long delay. But as we're kind of discovering here, this isn't really just a delay for Shadow and Order, it appears to be a complete rework of what that update actually is. They say we will provide exact details closer to release covering previously announced weapon tier upgrading, but also additions like expanding tiered gear to all raid and dungeon activities, Pantheon 2.0, tier 5 stats for exotic armors, and more. And when we talk about stuff like tiered gear going to raid and dungeon activities from the past, other quality of life stuff like tier 5 being expanded for exotic armor, those are changes we would probably expect to see with an expansion or alongside it, right? And so if this is going to be in June, any further expansion content for 2026 is probably going to be much later on. Beyond that though, they say through to June, we will continue to have routine bug fixes, stability improvements, continued portal modifiers, Guardian games in March, and the return of more frequent Iron Banner cadence in April and beyond. So between now and June, we'll have kind of the live game that was already planned for Destiny 2, although they don't touch on stuff like Call to Arms, right? Some of the other event content, we don't really know if we're going to get that. But they finish by saying in terms of communications, we will be focusing on providing you with updates about our live game content, community activations, and general upkeep through the TWID and our Destiny social channels. Thank you for the continued patience and support. We'll have more information on our next major update and future plans for Destiny 2 closer to launch, so yeah, that means it's going to be pretty quiet between now and June itself. It's possible, through maybe April or May, we'll start to hear a bit more about what that update might look like. The reference to future plans probably essentially refers to the roadmap, whatever that format is at this point, where we're also looking at the early part of the summer. So, interestingly, Bungie don't use the wording that this is a roadmap, but future plans. This follows an update from today where Paul Tassi had said whatever the roadmap is, it appears that it's going to significantly switch up the content model for Destiny 2. Not necessarily in a good way in terms of the amount of content we're getting, so the whole roadmap future of the franchise question really remains up in the air. And I know there'll be a lot of speculation from here about what Bungie are going to do with expansion content, whether we still get Shattered Cycle. But essentially, Shadow and Order is no more, right? I'm sure whatever the new content offering will actually be inside of this update will essentially be the core or the theme of Shadow and Order, but bigger additions like expanding tiered gear and the stats thing, obviously, in my mind, are probably pulled from other bigger releases that they were working on. So, as folks will say, the game will probably feel like it's in some kind of maintenance mode really until June, and as a lot of people have said, Bungie are probably waiting to see how Marathon performs, or more likely Sony are laying down the law, and if Marathon obviously doesn't do well, that could mean anything beyond to this June update is essentially cancelled. But we're probably getting ahead of ourselves to some extent. It does all kind of fit into that narrative and speculation though. Mention of Pantheon 2.0 is a small positive in itself, but yeah, I'm gonna have to let this sink in a little bit. What things will look like for Destiny 2 by the time we roll around to June is anyone's guess at this point. But yeah, it's going to allow Bungie a reasonably long period of time to deal with the Marathon stuff. I do, however, think though, while Bungie have said communications about the future of the game in a more significant fashion are going to be later on, around the June timeline, if we haven't heard indications about that by the time we get around to June, I'd say the writing is absolutely on the wall, unfortunately, although many folks would say we're already at that point, so you just have to give me your thoughts below. June 9th, it's a long delay. Certainly more stuff going to be part of Shadow and Order in terms of quality of life than what we were expecting. A little bit of a question mark around some of the other events as we mentioned between now and then, although given the implications of this delay, kind of minor events pale in comparison, right? Expanding on the potential implications of this a little bit, the article I referenced a moment ago from Paul Tassi from today had said it became a meme in the community that Bungie has failed to deliver a roadmap for the future of the series since it was announced last fall, but now things are getting genuinely concerning. It doesn't help that this is happening alongside the launch of Bungie's Marathon extraction shooter, with it having long been a fear that Destiny 2 would be sidelined for the new game. To many it feels like that's already happened. And he had said that by this point it feels like something pretty big is coming to the game, and probably in a bad way. He'd previously reported that the mid-season update was delayed, but had said there is clearly way more going on past simple delays. It kind of feels like Paul Tassi once again had inside information here. We got a year of the schedule that Bungie said it would be switching to. Rather than 4 seasons of content and a big expansion, the game would get 2 smaller expansions and a major update 3 months after each. The first major update, Ash and Iron, actually caused players to leave the game given its quality. And of course we would hope that this is going to be better than Ash and Iron was. Time will tell, I suppose. But he'd said it stands to reason that D2's next expansions, Shattered Cycle and The Alchemist, are being delayed as well. But pushing back a roadmap's release for almost half a year indicates something much larger and likely transformative is coming. And one of the suggestions there was that Destiny 2 is being scaled back even more. And that does feel likely based on just the way things have been going, right? There is what feels like a smaller possibility at the same time that maybe Destiny gets an infusion of content, or at least resources, following Marathon's launch a bit further down the road. Assuming that Marathon's success or performance actually allows for that, right? That's the big question mark. And yeah, I know some folks will say, obviously that's not going to happen, but for the moment, we'll just have to wait and see. But already, the point I'm making by reading this again is that there was that big indication that there is obviously something bigger going on behind the scenes with how Bungie are planning for the future of this game. So, only other update there was that apparently one of the sources Paul Tassi has been speaking to had said, I can tell you right now, the answer for the roadmap delay is not because we added more to the roadmap. And keep in mind this is referencing the roadmap itself and not the Shadow and Order or June update, whatever it will now be called. Because while Bungie have seemingly added more content to that update than it was originally going to be in Shadow and Order, this still appears to be an indication from an inside source that they have not added more to the roadmap, and even the wording is kind of ominous, suggesting that it's the opposite or that the roadmap maybe doesn't even exist, I don't know. I know that bit is speculative, but it's interesting contextually given that Bungie gave us this update today on the same day that article was posted, which I feel like there's got to be some amount of connection there, but yeah, it's certainly unfortunate and is not what we wanted to hear, especially the fact that this delay is actually a lot longer than we anticipated. Firstly, we thought it could maybe be a month and then maybe 2 months, and now, yeah, it will be a little over 3 months. So pretty bonkers, and obviously a lot of stuff moving around behind the scenes. So yeah, that's it. I'm tired, man. You'll just have to give me your thoughts down in the comment section. We at least got an update from Bungie. I'm guessing they won't elaborate in the twid, but share your thoughts about it below. For now, I'm gonna go get some rest, because yeah, 10:30 feels like 2:30 AM for me at this point. Give me your thoughts below, and I will catch you guys very soon.